Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. 866-594-4150. We've got some calls coming in while we were playing the music, so we should probably get to them.
We were playing the music before the show.
We sure were.
We just had it cranked up in here.
Did I miss a jam session?
You couldn't hear it downstairs?
I had my head full. I wasn't listening.
We had Scott in here playing his air guitar. And
that'd be
the rest
fun.
of your sales guys, you're going to see a dip in sales for about 5 minutes there.
Hey, did they have fun?
I heard
they had a lot of fun.
Then we'll buy it back later.
Scott came running down the hall and said, somebody was playing Michael Schenker. I had to come and investigate.
Yeah, and he would know that.
Yeah.
I heard doors closing throughout the building.
Yeah.
While I was in the hall.
There was some of that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's well, he's got a guitar from him hanging on his wall, so he's the man.
866-594-4150. So let's get right to the phones and talk to Jack. You're on the Under the Hood Show, Jack. What can we do for you?
Yeah, good morning. I'm calling for friends. You know, I call for my friends because they're too scared to talk to you.
Sure.
Radio people, you know.
We're not scary.
I know you aren't. Okay, I got a 2016 Ford SUV. And is that? Name me a couple.
It's an Escape. It says up on our call board.
Escape. That's what it is. Escape. Anyway, he's got it. Thing looks fine. Drives on the road. To be driving 60 miles an hour, and it starts raining, and all of a sudden, it just making a noise, and you got to slow down to about 40, and it keeps going. There's no vibration. It's just making sounds like a truck doing its, a semi truck when they go. But anyway, he's taken it out and had it checked out. At the mechanic shop, and they can't find anything on it. They thought it was brakes, but this doesn't do anything when he's got no brakes on, just going down the road making noise.
Did I hear you right when you say when it's raining?
When it rains, it makes that noise. Otherwise, it's fine. You can drive it, no problem.
Got to be something getting in the fan or the belt drive or something on the front of the engine, unless it's in the wheel area, and I don't know what in the wheels could get.
Yeah, I'm just
what in the wheels could do that?
Russ are sitting here staring at each other like, what could that be?
I've seen things get wet under a hood and do weird stuff.
Where they'll say the splash shields on the bottom were in place on the bottom of the engine.
Right.
That'd have to be a pretty heavy rain.
Yeah.
Is this we're not talking, are we talking torrential stuff here or just a light rain, or do you know?
No, just regular rain, not, just a normal rain shower,
Boy, that's a weird deal.
Because the noise you described was like an engine brake or a Jake brake. You hear on a semi. And the other day, my wife and I were driving, and we were right beside a semi as it was in the turning lane. It did the. She goes, "What was that?" She just hadn't heard it up close for a while.
Was it within city limits? Because that's against an ordinance, I believe.
Numerous ordinances.
I've seen it.
I think we were out of an ordinance zone.
Okay.
Boy, I didn't see him get arrested.
Oh,
they kept going.
All right.
I didn't see any dogs run out in fear.
Take them down.
Yeah, like a cone dog that had extra sensitivity running out. Like, stop it!
Yeah. Well, he's taken it to a shop, and they sprayed water on. They thought maybe it was the brakes. They sprayed water all over the wheels and stuff, and took it out on it. Dry pavement. No sound at all.
I would inspect the splash shields in the inner fender area. Make sure everything is attached solid. Make sure that there's no fasteners that have broken out on that, so that maybe when it starts throwing the water off the road into the splash shields, it could be making one flap like a tongue, that when it gets hit by the water, whereas if you're just driving down the road, it might not do it.
Yeah, maybe.
That's an idea. You could look at, like Russ said, if making sure that the cowl vent area where the water is supposed to run down the windshield and then drain out, to make sure for some reason that is not plugged, and maybe it is. I don't know, that makes no sense, but somehow or another getting caught up in it wouldn't make that much noise. I was thinking of the windshield wiper mechanism, like Russ said, getting into the heater box, but that would be an inside thing. You'd know that right away. You'd hear like a paddle wheel inside right away. That's about the only thing that makes any sense is some
Yeah.
sort of those plastic shields either gone that are allowing the water to get up into the belt area or into the engine area, or something that's making a resonant noise just by the nature of the water getting thrown off the wheels.
And that as a possibility makes no sense.
It's a
Right?
hard one.
I mean,
it's a hard one.
Right.
Water, yeah.
Kind of want to hear more about this one down the road.
It's weird for sure.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of down the road, last time I talked to you about that Jeep with the taillight deal.
Oh yeah.
Well, I just replaced the right taillight taillight assembly and took care of it.
Good.
Very good, Jack. Well, thanks for being a hoodie and listening in. If they have a breakthrough on the Swamped Escape, let us know.
One thing you could do, just an idea, go to
The look you have on your face right now, I know this is not any one bit serious.
local dirt track, local racetrack, and just say, "Hey guys, can you take the water truck out, and I'll drive behind you for 10 or 20 miles, and you just spray me like it's raining, and I'll bring the tech and have the tech in the passenger seat reading the data while I'm combining all the things I've learned over the years."
Yeah. Yep.
866-594-4150. Let's go to California and talk to David. You're on the Under the Hood Show. David, what can we do for you?
Hey, I'm really glad you got to talk to me.
I like
We
that.
are too.
I like that.
Hey, I have the tail of two El Caminos. I own two El Caminos, a 59 and an 87, the Alpha and the Omega.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a problem with this. You want to talk to the 59 first?
Sure.
Well, it's an overheating problem. It's a show car. It has a Blueprint 355 motor in it and a Turbo 400. The Turbo 400 has its own cooling system, a separate cooler. So on a hot day, such as over 100 degrees with the air on, it rides at 220 and above. And during a cruise, I got to 235, and I had to pull over. It has an electric fan, a puller, with a shroud. Other than that, I don't know how to solve the heating problem. Got a big fat aluminum radiator and a cross flow. So I'm looking for some insights.
Well, if everything's running fine in the engine as far as it's not a thermostat problem causing it to stick shut and overheat, then it needs a thermostat, but it needs to be one that's probably 195 or so in there, maybe even a little less, 180 to 195, 165 on the low end, but it needs a thermostat to keep the coolant flowing like it should and the proper pressures in there. But it sounds like you may not have enough airflow from that fan that's in it. If it's fine down the highway, does it overheat on the highway too?
Not on a normal day. Day like yesterday, it was 85, 90, and it only got to about 200. Rides it around, I think it's got a 195 thermostat.
Okay.
So it seems to ride in that vicinity.
So on the highway, that's where it's at?
Right now, yes.
Okay.
It's even cooler driving around in locals, 180, 90.
Okay, so if you're on the highway and the temperatures are always fine, but when you stop and you're in traffic and parade and things like that and it overheats, then you're not getting enough airflow through there, and it might just be as simple as getting a different fan. They make some different fan assemblies for those aluminum radiators. You can get single fans, you can get dual fans, but you got to make sure you've got a big enough one. Typically, we would contact the radiator manufacturer when we were putting radiators in vehicles like this, trying to get the right fan for it, because they would experiment and they'd have enough people call and say, "Hey, your radiator's not working. I'm not getting enough heat dissipation." And they'd say, "Well, you need to get this model fan for it." And they would have those things in their engineering team and research, so they'd know what to put in there. We had one in a small radiator in our 47 or our 49 GMC, and it's a vertical, radiator in it. But it has been changed. It's small enough that we had to put an aluminum radiator, but one electric fan does the job just fine, even on a 100-degree day, because it's correct for it. But the first fan I put on it was not, and it did not pull enough air. And so you've got to go with a fully shrouded, right-size fan for it. They're looking for that.
David, stay right where you are. We're going to talk about your 87 when we come back. We're going to take a quick break. 866 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show. 866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. All right, let's talk about your 87 El Camino now, going to California, talking to David. David?
Hi, one last thing about the 59. Would putting another fan in front of the radiator help me?
Not a good idea because the two of them together kind of fight each other. It's a fan itself restricts airflow. So if you put another one up there, it just doesn't do the same as one bigger fan always works better than two smaller ones. I've seen people do it. You're going to gain some, but you're not going to gain near as much.
Better just to get the right.
Yeah, we were talking during the
one.
break just about, CFM was the measurement of how much air they can move.
Yeah.
And Russ has seen, just talking with people, projects they've done where they've bought certain ones, whether it be off of Amazon or whatever, and they're not always portrayed accurately, he doesn't think, compared to what was the brands that you guys would use?
Well, Spal makes a good fan.
Yeah.
SPAL. They make a pretty good fan, and there's other ones out there. But here's what happens. So they'll take a fan, and these Chinese fans, they'll measure them by, so you got the blade pitch. The more blade pitch, the more air you're going to move to a certain point. And when you get to that max blade pitch and you spin that fan, well, there's your airflow. It doesn't take a lot of motor to spin a fan just standing up on a stand in the middle of a room. So you can get a lot of CFM. Well, you stick it on a radiator, and you got to pull through those fins, and all of a sudden that motor cannot support that fan. Or they'll make it sound great, and it'll just roar like crazy, but there'll be almost no blade pitch. There'll be almost a straight blade, and they're spinning that thing at 5,000 RPM. It's just, and you think, oh, it's working so great, but why am I not getting any air? So if you get one, some of the Spal fans have these giant motors on them and a lot of blade pitch, and those things can really suck a lot of air. I know ours is not super loud in our 49. It's loud. You can hear that the fan's running, but it's not overbearing. But it's got a lot of blade pitch, and when it's on, it blows your hair.
Yeah, and we're running the 4.8 LS motor
in a small area
in a little dually
with air conditioning
48 truck with kind of a closed front end. I mean, there's good airflow, but not wide open. And we would pull a enclosed trailer with that.
It never got hot,
and you kept the temperatures in check all the time. So it can be done. It's just maybe it's the
running the Justice Brothers radiator cooler, and it dropped it quite a bit too.
Yeah, that did help.
If you are not running a radiator cooler, and I mean cooling for your coolant, you can put an additive in your coolant that will, what it does is it gives it more contact. It's breaking up the air that's inside of the system, so it gives the ability of that coolant to transfer its heat through the metal out and into the air. And make sure your coolant is right too. Our partner Peak, is who we use at our shop for coolant. And when you're putting coolant in, I mean, you got to make the right choice in coolant. You got to make sure that it's blended right, because if you buy a premix, you're good to go. Peak supplies a 50-50 mix that would be perfect for that car to both protect the metal and keep it, you got your freeze and your boil protection. But if you don't use a 50-50 mix, you got to make sure you get it right. A lot of people think that if they just mix a stronger coolant and less water, it'll give you more boil protection for this overheating, but it doesn't work that way. You've got to get it precise, and that's why we go with the 50-50 mix. But that's one of the first things I might do that's easier before you start changing electrical and fans and everything. Drain the coolant, get yourself a Peak 50-50 blend mix of antifreeze coolant, put it in there, and then get the additive you can put in the coolant that will help lower the temperatures. Justice Brothers is going to be the one that we use. We've got it here. If you cannot find that for some reason, there are other ones on the market. You can ask your local auto parts store, hey, what do you have that I can put in my coolant that lowers the temperature for a race car? Because some of these people, they won't know what you're talking about when you.
So you kind of finish it with for a race car.
Yeah, and they'll know what they'll get it figured out then.
All right, now the 87.
Okay, well, I do. First thing, I've already changed the coolant with the Peak 50-50. It's in there now.
Good.
Okay.
I don't have the additive though. That's something I'll look at. Okay, the 87 is, I bought it in brand new in September 87. It's got 140,000 miles on it. And I've taken care of it like my baby since 87. The only car I'm never going to sell. Got the original 305 speed in it. And it's got a carburation problem. When I started, I know that these carburetors leak the fuel out after, well, I've had it for 36 years. And after it sits for a long time, I have to pump it like crazy to get it started. Once I get it started, I have a hard time getting it to come down off of idle. Even after driving it 5-10 miles, I go to shut it off, and it will diesel. Even putting it in gear, I can hardly get it to shut off. And it'll diesel 3 or 4 times before I eventually get it to shut off. So I know that probably needs a carburetor, but I just wonder if there's thing that eliminates this dieseling problem. I know it's bad for the engine, which is lots.
Well, if it's got a carburetor problem, without fixing it, you will not get rid of that issue with the run-on, and that's caused by carbon in the engine that's still hot and gasoline being poured in there when it's not supposed to be. Even if you've got it in gear, it can do it. It sounds to me, with the combination of symptoms you're giving me, it sounds like that quadrajet is leaking out of the plugs on the bottom of the carburetor. If you were to take it off with it full of fuel and hold it up and look, you'd see that they're probably wet and they're probably dripping, which means that when the engine sits turned off, the float bolt empties itself. It drips out into the intake, which is going to make it extremely hard to start because the engine's going to have a lot of gas loaded up in it, which is going to make it rich. So it's going to be partially flooded if it's too soon. If it sits overnight, it'll all evaporate, but then your carburetor's empty and you got to crank it until it's full again before it's going to fire. And it's also going to drip out of there and cause that run-on. All these things are pretty simple to fix if you can find a shop that's going to rebuild the carburetor. I've had to rebuild 2 carburetors in the last month, and I hated both of them. I don't like doing them. The chemical is dangerous you use for it. It's just all awful. But one of them was a 85 carburetor, which is the same thing you have exactly.
Feedback carburetor.
Other than the feedback, because this one was a big block, so it had no feedback on it in 85. But yours, it does have the electrical solenoid. That was the only difference in the front of it. But I had to redo the plugs on the bottom of it and go through the whole thing to make it work. And you'll run into the same thing with yours. There's people out there who can rebuild them, but there's also new ones. I want to say they're about $450 for yours. You got to trade your old one in, and then they send you a whole one that's been rebuilt and it's tuned and usually works really well.
One other option too might be going with like a Holley projection system. I mean, they've got different options now that are very common for people to switch those over to a throttle body fuel injection, and you'll have
replaces the quad.
A lifelong performance that you'll really like.
Do you do that at an 87 El Camino?
I got to ask about this 87 El Camino. I'm intrigued. Does this happen to be like a SS or a choo-choo package or anything like that?
No, it's the basic package. I mean, it's got all the gadgets and stuff on it, but it's not an SS or a Conquista.
Yeah, because I know that I was always intrigued with those because we had a GMC Diablo that I drove around in high school a little bit. And so I've always paid attention to it. And the El Caminos that they made, like that looked like the Monty SSs, the choo-choos and stuff, they were a sweet-looking vehicle. I think they're going to be quite collectible as they get older. I've just a hunch, but you sound like you like your El Camino too. So you just got a good old double headlight, Malibu front-looking El Camino, right?
Yeah, that's it. And I would wonder if you guessed the color.
No, I know. I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
I noticed the look on his face when this started. Yeah.
I wanted to go there right away, but I felt I was being too much of a clown. I think that his El Camino is it's in California. That year, the colors, it's got to be silver, guys. I think. What do you think, Chris?
I was thinking gold.
Okay.
He's got the gold, and I was thinking the tan, the more of a brown color.
I'm counting that. I'm taking that one. You gotta go.
No, you said gold because there was a gold that was light like a ring, and then there's a brown.
I'm taking it unless I'm right. What color is it, David?
Fine, it's blue.
Well, it's September '87. I specifically looked for a white one. That's what I bought. There was only 3 left in the LA area, and in September '87, I bought one.
Very cool.
Very cool. I love white. That's a great color for everything. So
I have
as
a
far
question.
as the cars go.
Shannon, in 1987, how do you search an entire area for a color?
Yeah. Had to be harder.
Get on the phone, huh?
Yeah, a lot harder than today.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. When we come back, we want to hear from you.
Make a radio appointment each week to hear the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. UTI.edu is the place to go if you're looking to make a better career and life for yourself. And underthehoodshow.com. Join the Hoodie Fan Club, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and UTI could give you a hoodie.
Like the one that we've given from them to Chad Kunert. Congratulations from all of us here at Under the Hood and Universal Technical Institute.
I should point out that it is an Under the Hood Show hoodie.
It is.
Sponsored by Universal Technical Institute.
UTI.edu.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Kenneth. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Kenneth, what can we do for you?
All right, this is not necessarily as complicated of an issue as the last guy had, but when I push, my trunk doesn't pop open when I press the button in the car, but with my remote it does pop open. So I'm wondering if it's an electrical problem, whatever. And will any body shop do something? Where do I go to get something like that fixed? And another thing, my cruise control doesn't always set. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know why.
What kind of Saturn do you have?
An Aura.
It's an Aura, so it's like the Malibu-based car, correct? I think.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, no,
I think
that's
Big sedan
yeah. It's based off the Malibu,
Yes.
and it was branded as a Saturn.
compared to
Yeah,
other Saturns.
Now
not-
Russ is wondering about your quote, Chris, of saying a big sedan.
yeah, they're not. I mean, compared to a Saturn SL1 or whatever.
Oh,
they
that's
were.
a huge car
Yeah,
compared
yeah. I mean,
A whole 8 inches longer. I
on the
bet.
Saturn.
Yeah.
This is on the Saturn scale, not on the Caprice Classic scale.
There we go. Yeah, because like when you go to the rental car, full size sedan, mid size sedan, compact.
It's named after a giant planet. It's a tiny little car. Yes. I think you probably have a failed trunk button that we've put in a few of those. To get that repaired, you're going to go to just a general automotive shop, not a body shop. Body shop might not either. They might not know what to look for in that, or wouldn't. They'd have to do a little more digging. Like with us, we don't have a lot of body type manuals for that type of repair and straightening. I couldn't give you numbers for where certain things are supposed to sit because we don't do that every day, but good for the mechanical, and they're exactly opposite of us of what they do. But yeah, general automotive repair shop that does electrical and mechanical and stuff, and they'll check that button. I mean, you could have a body control module that's going bad, but typically not. Your input from the remote is sent into the body control module where it activates the trunk, and then your button also goes into that same circuit in there. So I'm guessing you probably got a bad button. And if you pushed it and twisted it and pushed it really hard inside, you might get it to go one more time. And if you do, that's a guarantee the button's bad. Or you could just pull it out and jumper across the back of it with a paper clip between the two terminals, and if it pops open, that's a way to tell if it's.
Has the button ever worked since you owned the car?
No, the guy I bought it from, he told me it kind of stopped working, but every now and then he could get it to work, but not really. So I've never gotten it to work, but I guess he was just trying to sweeten the deal or something. I don't know. He was trying to make it.
This
sound
is the
better
deal
than it
breaker,
was.
the trunk popper.
You do forget that, though. I mean, if you have a trunk button that was intermittent for a while, you say it's intermittent, it's been a while, and it could have been 5 years. It could have stopped working a long time ago, but you don't think that if it's yours.
And there are some cars, once they get new enough, that button is disabled under certain conditions. And people don't always think about that.
It won't work unless it's in park.
Yeah, and I have one car that it will not work unless the car is not running.
Interesting.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. But with the remote, you can hold it down and open it.
And now the Cruise, separate problem.
That could be as simple as the brake light burnt out in the back window.
Mm-hmm. This is the cruise control thing. There are a list of things that are simple that it could be, and then it kind of just progresses from there. And they're
it's
some
electric.
of them are simple and not.
You got an electric
easy.
throttle. So if the electric throttle works by stepping on the gas pedal, then we know the cruise could control it because it's all that same motor. There's no separate unit. So for it to work, it has to see some conditions. The brake light in that rear window, that third brake light, has to work because it uses that as a safety circuit. The brake light switch has to work. So if you have no brake lights on the car, I mean, that's a good indication. I've asked people, well, do your brake lights work? Well, I don't know. I can't see them. And then they go back and go, oh, hey, you're right. I backed up and looked at a window and in front of the store, I don't have any brake lights. I should get that fixed. And they've got a bad brake light switch, and that takes care of all of it.
Not to spend a lot of time on this, but I do want to get back to it later in the show, and because we got callers lined up. But Russ, keep this in mind. Chris, keep this in mind. The age. We had a safety meeting this morning, and I was just thinking about this. The age-old adage of cruise control in slippery conditions. I want to get back to that with the way modern vehicles are made now.
Okay.
So we'll talk about that later. When I heard cruise control, it just triggered me.
Kenneth, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Tim. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Tim, what can we do for you?
Good morning. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
I have a 2015 Chevy Silverado, and the door ajar light for the driver's door is on constantly. When the door is shut with this light on, the power window switches are dead. Everything else works, the power door locks, the mirror controls. But when I open the door, the power switches come alive.
And this is a 2015 Silverado, that newer generation to us, kind of, when you look at it. I haven't heard a lot of them doing this.
It's like 9 years old, though.
I know. It's kind of gotten old in a hurry on us, hasn't it?
Seems brand new, but it's old.
Yeah.
It's possible that the wires are broke. Either two things have happened. The wires are broken in the door. There's one or two wires broken, or that door module has failed because he closes the door and the door module light, if it's on, you can't use the windows. If it's off, you can use the windows. But then you open the door, if that light was on, and it works. So when you open the door and it works, does it say door ajar on the dash?
It still does, yes.
Okay. But if you close the door, as long as the door jar light is on, the windows won't work. But when that light's off, they do work, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I think you've got a broken wire in the door, or you've got a bad door module, driver's door module, one of the two. The finding of the wires broken is much easier. You could do that at home. You just pull that rubber boot back that's on the door and look at the wires. Sometimes we'll just give each one just a gentle tug. The wire is strong enough that you could pull it. I don't think you could probably pull it hard enough to even break one. They're so strong. But if they're broken, it'll either stretch the plastic on the outside of it like a lot, like an inch, or it'll just come right out. And then you know it's broken, and then you've got to get the boot back far enough to get in there and repair the wires.
That sounds so easy, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's so tight.
You're such a tight area, and that boot is never as compact as you'd like to get it out of the way.
We can do it. So what we typically do is when we pull that boot off.
And the door is still there.
Yeah, I hear him say that, and I work on him. I'm like, he makes it sound so easy.
You remember the old cars, Shannon?
Yeah.
Like in the 80s and early 90s, you could just pull the boot loose on both ends and then stuff the boot into the door.
You can get it out of the way.
Or into the body.
Yeah, they had a hole that's about this big.
But now they use a little plastic piece.
Yeah, and it's hard set into the two sides.
So the plastic piece contains all the wire pins, and the boot snaps around it. So you've got to pull it all out, and then you can take the door panel off and take the wires loose and pull it out.
It's a little more of an operation than
we typically get somewhere between 1 and 2 hours to take that apart, repair all the wires, put it back together when we have one broken. We don't get a lot of them in this model.
I'm trying to think. If your door is open, say his truck is working perfect, and I've had these trucks. If the door is open, you can't roll down the window?
Well, no, you can open. You can roll.
If the door is open, the window controls work.
Yeah,
if
everything
it's shut,
works.
They don't.
When it's shut and the door ajar light is on. If the door ajar light is off and it's functioning correctly, that's why I'm thinking you might have a.
Yeah, because if it was just like the integrated latch assembly with a problem not triggering the door close, you'd still be able to open your window and close it.
You know what you could do? Also easier, probably just open the door, and the windows are working. Then grab a hold of that boot in the door And while you're rolling a window down or up, move the boot up and down and around and see if it quits.
Oh,
if it does, it's definitely a wire problem there. But if it doesn't, you probably got a module problem going on.
The other thing you can do is pull a little bit forward when you're at the window, and then you have to open your door and talk to the person.
You
out
will
the
wreck
thing,
something
and
doing
then
that eventually.
You're up.
When you back up, you're going to take your
'Cause you're a
door
little
out.
too far.
Yeah, it's not going to be good. Don't
Yeah,
do that any
don't
more
do-
than once. Because inside that door, what Russ is talking about, now that you've got that newer generation, and they might have done this 07 or newer too, but I don't remember. But you have a electronic integrated door latch module, a door latch mechanism, which goes over the striker.
There you go.
And then there is also a control module in the door, on the driver's door, that is part of the CAN bus network that controls functions within that door, the switches, the other stuff going on there. And then, of course, you got the wires leading to and from. And then you also have a body control module that's helping all this communication, too. So there's a few things involved more so than it used to be. In the
Lots of goodies in there.
Yeah, the old day, like Russ talked about, you'd take that soft rubber boot out of the way, kick it back, and you'd have 10-gauge wires in there that were all hot or grounds, and they were direct wired right to the fuse block. Not the case anymore. You got tiny wires, and they're going to modules, and it's a computer network, and they're running less than 5 volts. It's just a whole different world than it used to be.
Tim, good luck. Thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. Let's go to Michigan and talk to Phil. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Phil, what can we do for you?
Hi there, guys. I've got a 2010 Nissan Murano, and my back doors won't unlock automatically. And we just had the alternator and battery replaced, and I went and had took it down to AutoZone and had it coded, and it said low battery voltage. So I'm assuming they might not have reset it. But the problem is we're worried about eventually not being able to get in the car because it doesn't have a key. It's just got the push button lock. But when we the back doors will lock with the inside door lock, but they won't unlock. Both fronts unlock. So we don't know where to go from here. I did a YouTube thing, and they said unhook the batteries and jump the 2 cables together, and didn't reset the system, and that didn't do anything. I was just wondering if you guys had any idea.
Can you say with precision that the problem started at the same time as the switch?
Yeah, well, when they were working fine till after we had it, the battery and the alternator replaced. And then my wife actually worked at a dealership at the time. Actually, this just happened and she retired, long story short. But yeah, it happened after, right after, She didn't notice it because she didn't, we didn't have to unlock the back doors till, a day or 2 later. And then that's when we noticed that it wouldn't unlock. But before that, it was working fine.
Maybe that's got modules in it too. So maybe disconnect that battery for about 10 minutes, hook it back up, and see if they start working. Because if it happened at the same time, it might be that it just got.
You did try that, right, Phil? You tried that procedure.
I did try that. I actually jumped the 2 cables together, put alligator clips and jumped them together.
Okay. Well, that's a good idea. That's a good start. After that,
they actually will. They will lock. They will lock with the push button inside, and they will lock when you start driving in gear. Once you drive a little bit, then they'll lock. They'll lock also, but we just can't get them to unlock.
Oh, at all. Okay. Well, there's 2. The way that system works, it's got 2 relays set up in it, and they both have to work because they ground all the wires for the door locks when the system is at rest. And then when you hit the button for either unlock or lock, it removes the ground from one side and applies power. So it tells me that you've got one side of that grounding and the other side is not, because the side that would be ground for the lock is working, but not the unlock. So I think it's going to take some time in a shop. They're going to have to get the voltmeter out.
Yeah.
They'll start by going all the way to the, we would go to we're going to look at the diagnostic stuff we see on the scanner first, and then we're going to proceed to the actuator motor and see if it's grounded on both sides. If it's not, if it's open on one side, then I'm going to go to the relays and see. I might just even start by, after I do looking at the scanner information, I might just go right to the relay and pull them out, swap them around, see what's going on, and see. Sometimes you could switch them exactly opposite, and then it'll unlock but not lock. So it could be simple as that. But I think it's going to take a little bit of work in the shop to get that one going.
Does that help you out there, Phil?
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, you could always take another shot at the battery thing and just see if maybe something just goes, oh, I'm working now.
Mm-hmm.
I get lucky sometimes that way.
It's got one system for the driver's door and then one system for the rest. It's a 2-part system. That's why you push it twice to unlock it. 2 separate relays.
And there's times when you do a power issue and you put a battery in and you haven't kept a maintainer on it and you lose that power. There's times just some of those relays stick. Things don't come back to life.
Is there any programming to do to have it when you put it in park and turn it off, the doors unlock? And
that's usually.
But this button won't unlock.
Yeah, I know.
I kept waiting for that, and there is programming for that through the door switch. But this one, it won't work with the button either. That button always does its thing.
That's correct, Phil? Right?
Yeah, they won't. They will lock with the button, but they will not unlock with the button.
Okay. Yeah, that's not the answer I wanted to. I thought Russ had a look on his face. I thought he was gonna, but then you have to bring it into a professional to get fixed. No one wants to hear that, Shannon.
No,
ever.
They want to call here for free and get some easy advice.
Yeah, that's why I text you guys all the time. Phil, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Dave. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Dave, what can we do for you?
Good morning, guys. Once again, enjoying the show. I've got, my wife's got a 2012 Chrysler 300 that I have 2 different questions on. One is that it's got the 8-speed transmission, which means there's no dipstick, so you can't inspect the oil or anything. And it's coming up on 160,000 miles now. Should I be looking at changing the oil on that transmission? The owner's manual, when I got it, said the oil should last the life of the vehicle, but what's that?
Well, that's until it's dead, and then it's time to change it, whether it's 80,000 miles or 200.
When the transmission dies.
You're gonna need to. I would take a look at the fluid. You could pull off one of the cooler lines when the vehicle's cool. Just unbolt it, bolt it back on. Some will drip out of there, and you can look at it on a white piece of paper. And if it's starting to get pretty dark but still smells okay, like it's not super burnt, go ahead and change it. You can get a pan. You have to replace the pan. The filter's in the pan, and when you do that, they'll come with a drain plug in them. But
is that from Chrysler? The replacement comes with a drain plug.
Yeah, no. You have to get an aftermarket.
That's what I was wondering. That would be really crazy if their replacement had a.
Yeah.
No, the Dorman product ones come with that, but the rest of them don't. So you've got to get the whole thing. But then you can replace the filter separate in it afterwards. That's what we would suggest. But it can be tricky at home to try to fill that yourself. So you might just want to ask a shop what they get to change it. But you're going to fall over when you find out how much it is to change trans fluid.
Because the fluid's expensive.
The fluid, the pan, the labor, all of it's probably going to run you $750 to $850.
Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. He didn't want to hear that.
Yep. So
tells me lifetime of the vehicle right there. That's
there
what
you go.
Just told me.
That's what.
Question 1 answered.
You have another question, Dave? Not
now.
now.
Cruise control. Yeah, that one did take me back a little bit. On her cruise control, when you hit the button to turn it on, it doesn't always light the light in the dash. And she had it figured out. You hit the resume, adjust, and then the on, it would come on. And then sometimes that doesn't work. And back when it was new under warranty, they replaced that switch one.
Yeah, that switch fails a lot.
I'm wondering, it does.
Yep, we put a lot of those in. Even now, we're putting them in. It's one of the most common switch replacements we do,
and a fairly easy one to replace.
Yep.
Dave, thanks very much for the call. Got to take a quick break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Car feeling ill? Don't want to spread it to your wallet? Call the Motor Medics now for free advice.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Let's talk about cruise controls a little more now. You had
Yeah, we had one, Benji Cephas, our manager here at Nordstrom's for our main company. We do safety meetings. We do them bi-monthly and just go over different subjects. And I hated it this morning because we're not going to be getting together for a little bit because of holidays with the safety meeting, but we had to talk a little bit about winter preparedness.
I have a question.
Yes.
Safety meeting at work,
Here at work.
Okay.
At Nordstrom's for all of our staff. We got, give or take 80 people, and we get together and cover personal protective equipment.
Mm-hmm.
We cover heat stroke. We cover hypothermia, frostbite, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. So
just have different subjects on a rotating basis.
Life safety and work safety.
Yeah, it covers work and life.
Okay.
And so, of course, we have delivery routes and people that drive on the road and everything else. So one of the things that was brought up in this KPA safety module, which is part of the Certified Auto Recycler, being an Automotive Recycler Association member, we've got access to these training through the ARA University.
Okay.
And part of the canned presentation was the old adage, and our state even puts it up on big billboards, on the electronic billboards, don't use your cruise control on the ice and snow.
Mm-hmm.
And it is definitely the right advice. So I'm just going to start there.
Mm-hmm.
That is definitely the right advice. I've been in the ditch before when I was younger with a 1985 Ford pickup with the cruise control on that all of a sudden,
hit a slippery patch
going north towards Brookings, I hit a slippery patch and the back wheels took off and it just kept trying to accelerate. But my question that I was going to ask Russ about and just talk about a bit, is that still, if you had a ultra modern car, let's just say something that is in the current 5 years and it's loaded up with traction control and automated driving systems and all those things, is that issue still the same?
It shuts off because the traction control sees the slip and immediately kicks the cruise off. But that half second
could be enough to pitch you.
Immediate
could be enough
is relative to
if you're
situation.
cruising across a piece of black ice that's 200 feet long and you just steadily go across it without accelerating or decelerating, just steady cruise. You might make it. But if you make a sudden jerk of the wheel or let off the throttle or give it gas, and all it takes is a little bit. And once you break that traction, you're not going to get it back.
You're at the mercy of
There's part of me that wonders if that car might be a smoother driver than me with the accelerator pedal if I was just on my own.
That's a good question. I mean,
the technology's gotten so good. Would the car be better than me trying to sense that ice?
Well, then there we go again into that big rabbit hole, a can of worms of what about an autonomous car?
Oh,
because
I know.
It is a cruise control.
Exactly. The systems have to get smart enough to know this at some point.
They're getting better.
So, I mean, I'm not saying to change anything. I just wanted to talk about it. I thought it was fun.
Still good thing to
take your
think
cruise
about.
off, I think. Yeah.
That'll do it for Hour 1. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturtevant's. Hour 2's on the way.
Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. You guys want to see me do that? You want to see me answer? You want my expertise?
I'm not that impressed, I guess.
What? But sometimes I don't get it right. So
sometimes once every 4 minutes you get something wrong.
I'm like a field goal kicker. Sure. I mean, I screw up sometimes, but I'm like at 85% across the league.
We got to answer a question for our friend Hassan in Bahrain because we're getting ready to go to a call about an 015.4. His question is,
and Nicholas has been holding on for a long time.
He listens every week, so this is about his
Nicholas,
truck.
I would have done this
he
better.
Listens every week in Bahrain, and he says, I want to know, he goes, not a knock on, American trucks, but why is it that a lot of your callers call about broken American trucks instead of foreign trucks?
Mm-hmm.
Well, two reasons there. Because here, to you, they're a foreign truck. Here, they're American trucks, and your trucks are the foreign trucks. See, it's like space aliens. It's like, are they aliens or are we aliens? You'd never know. So anyways.
I'm an alien.
They're calling because, one, yes, they do break, but they break. If you look at our shop, they break just as often as like a Toyota or Mazda or whatever other foreign truck to us that we have. But there's so many more here sold.
Yeah, the per capita rate of breakage would be interesting to really know in our market.
We have just a ton of Ford, Chevy, and Chrysler trucks on the road here compared to like a Toyota.
They sell a lot of them, but just not as many.
Yeah, not near as many compared to that. That's why we have so many that call about these.
I read an article just a couple weeks ago about the most sold car in each state, and it said what was the most sold vehicle and then the percentage of vehicles sold that were that model. So it wasn't really all over the map. I mean, but it's certainly our area, the 10 states around us, were all F-150s.
If you look down our street, it's all trucks and SUVs, big SUVs.
It was all.
And the people that ever, even like once put anything more than a bag of dog food in the back of that truck, it's got to be a very low percentage.
It was all pickup trucks, mostly F-150, all F-150s in our area. And the percentages were also skewed. Like this is not true, but I'm just going to go random. California was the Toyota Camry. 3% of all vehicles sold were the Toyota Camry. That's the most sold vehicle. The Dakotas and a couple of the northern states, it was F-150. 13% of all vehicles sold are F-150s.
Probably.
And 10% were Rams. So that's a lot of them out there.
Well, let's get to an F-150 buyer here in Nicholas.
Nicholas, you're on the Under the Hood show. What can we do for you?
So I got this 2001 5.4, but when I go to a stop sign, it'll stall out, and then when I get going, like I'll stall out, I'll turn it off, turn it on. Then when I get going, it'll stall out again, and I don't know. I've replaced the air sensor at right before the engine throttle body.
Yep,
and that didn't do much.
Yeah, the mass airflow sensor's been replaced. Okay. So are you getting any check engine lights or anything showing up on the dash? What do you got? Any more you can tell us before we start talking about this?
So the service engine light soon light was on, but that was... So this truck sits quite often, so I don't know how long that's been on.
So
but that
sits quite often. Is it like a work truck that sits in a parking lot somewhere, or?
So my dad bought it originally in 2000, and then he got a new truck, and it just sat. And then whenever one of our trucks goes in for repair or whatever, we just grab that. So it's probably sat most of its life, I would say.
All right, and is it got 1 million miles on it, or is it not bad for the miles?
240,000.
I just cannot believe it wouldn't run perfect with 250,000 miles on it.
Mm-hmm.
It is kind of amazing what we expect out of this mechanical engineering.
In a 2-decade-old.
Yeah, that's 240,000 miles, and it's just not quite running right. And I'm not picking on you because we have this a lot. We're like, it just suddenly stopped running right. Well, eventually, as I get older,
I understand.
Yeah, no, I have the same thing. Like at some point, my hip's going to be worse, and it's going to be one day when I wake up, it's going to be this little pain just
yesterday.
What just happened? So when it's going down, and when you go to get in it after it's been sitting in the lot for a while, does it fire right up?
It lugs a little bit, but it'll start in the third or fourth crank.
All right, and so once it gets running, then it seems to idle out okay and everything.
Yep, it'll idle out fine.
And then when you put it in gear, does it seem like it holds the idle well for taking off and driving?
Nope. When you try to idle it around the yard, it'll idle fine, and then it'll start to sputter, and then it'll stall out.
All right, and then
so it's like at low RPM when it's in drive or reverse.
And has anybody ever put a code scanner on there to see what the service engine light soon is for?
I have like a little cheap dinky thing, and it didn't read a code at all.
That must be a cheap, dinky thing if it doesn't read a code at all. Because in 2000,
it will scan them. It scanned them in my truck, but it didn't say there was anything found when it scanned.
Yeah, it might be the EGR. That system still has that EGR on it, and if it is hanging open at all or leaking by it, it will cause that issue. We've seen a couple of them do that. There's an EGR valve sensor on those trucks that picks up whether or not it's flowing. Also, the valves are prone to carbon buildup in them. We've had a couple of them that have acted up after we've put an engine in, and we've tapped on the side of it with a small hammer very lightly, so we don't bend it or break it. And it smoothed out. It knocks the carbon loose in them, and it smooths out. So it could be that's what's going on. Because if that opens up at all, you're dumping exhaust gas in, which has the oxygen already burned. And once that happens, it won't run the engine, so it's going to stumble at idle. That's one possibility of what's going on. You might even just try to unplug it, plug off the vacuum line, and drive it at idle speeds and see if it goes away. If it does, then it's hanging open, and that little control that runs it up there, that solenoid, may be bad and stuck open.
That's something else to consider that might not be on your normal first page of thinking.
Tiny amount of vacuum will make that open.
Nicholas, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Get your planner out right now and schedule your next radio appointment with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Let's talk to Christoph. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Christoph, what can we do for you?
Hey, guys. How are you?
Fantastic.
Good. So, first, I wanted to ask, can you help me find an anniversary card? No, I'm just kidding. But
yeah, I can.
My wife and I are celebrating 21 years being licensed spouses. So,
how about a Cavalier?
But I was calling about an 02 Rodeo, and just before I made the call, there was the previous question about brands versus breakdowns, and I'm in computer support. That question happens in my line of work all the time too. What brand should I buy? What brand never breaks down? And I'm like, okay, well, people would ask me that when I worked at a service counter, and I would say, well, we're working on computers right now that are broken because these are the ones that people buy. So the most popular ones that people buy are the ones that break down,
I have to interrupt you for a second there, Christoph. As someone who recently celebrated an anniversary, and you guys haven't been a couple months ago. Shut up, Christoph. Now you make up. We didn't say that on our...
Did he say it was an anniversary of marriage?
No. Licensed computer or
legal spouses.
Is that what that was?
Yeah.
See, because I don't think
licensed spouses.
Licensed spouses.
Licensed spouses. There you go.
I was wondering. I was going to go back actually.
Yeah.
All right,
we were unlicensed for 5 years when we were dating. So.
Sure. All right.
Yep. But
I wondered about the computer thing too, Russ.
Mr. Cat PC.
There we go.
Yep. So
this guy came into our shop like
about an 02 Rodeo
25 years ago.
Yeah.
That's when he wasn't legal.
Yeah. No.
Wasn't licensed.
Wasn't licensed. Yeah. Okay,
yeah,
we're done having fun now.
The problem then was that Russ's computer wasn't grounded. We had to ground it.
Yep.
But the 02 Rodeo that my son has inherited from his granddad, from my dad. It's from Texas, and we got it in February. He started driving it after getting his license in March, and he was driving it relatively rarely because he thought it was lurching. If I babied it and drove, on a cold start, I didn't hit a problem. But of course, he's taking off right away like this is a brand new car. Granddad said, hey, there's maybe a transmission problem. We had it at a Ford dealership because that's where they had their Mercury service all the time. And chasing the transmission problem actually turned out to be a radiator leak problem. So anyway, fast forward to August, just a couple weeks before he went to school, he did decide to finally take it in. We did have it repaired, but now I got an interesting issue. When I picked up the car, before we drove it out to Rapid, where he's going to school now, the motor in the back for the rear wiper was running, when I got in and put the key in the ignition and turned it on. Hadn't hit any switches, but the rear wiper motor was going. I'm going to still ask Granddad about what he did with that rear wiper because the motor was still running, but there's no arm attached to it. The arm was sitting in the low cargo door because it's a tailgate that swings out. So it was wide enough to just stash the wiper arm in there. But what they did at the shop that we had it worked on is they went ahead and replaced a power washer fluid pump because it wasn't spraying any fluid on the front windshield. So now it sprays the front, sprays the back, the front wipers work. But for whatever reason, that motor was running. And I thought, well, maybe it's not getting resistance because it doesn't have the arm on there and it's busy trying to reset the motor to the sleep position. I thought I had turned it off by button, but I think the switch might not be working. But how would you chase that issue? Because when I got the car back home, I opened the tailgate and I saw that the rear panel up above where the dome light is was sitting in the cargo area detached, and the dome light was removed from the plug. And I thought maybe the bulb wasn't working when I went ahead and put it all back together and realized that that unit is grounded to the body through a screw that holds the plastic in place. So I'm not sure if that's related to the wiper, because now the button does nothing on the dash for the rear wiper, but that motor also isn't going when you start the car or you shut off the car. I don't hear that. And I thought it was maybe running for maybe like 10 or 20 seconds and then stopping. And I thought I had been shutting it off by pushing the button, but maybe it was just timing. So I'm wondering if it might just be the switch on the dash that doesn't work for that wiper anymore. And now that the motor has gotten to a resting position because it has resistance, maybe it's just decided not to move the wiper because it's not getting a signal from the switch.
I think the motor's bad.
Sense?
Yeah, I think the motor's bad. We have never seen one other than the motor failed that does this. The way that the manufacturer built it, and a lot of other vehicles with rear wipers, they have a constant power running from the battery back there through a fuse, and that is made so that every time you shut the key off, when it loses its ignition power or loses the switch power, it allows this motor to run until it's parked and shuts off in the down position so you can open the rear glass. So if the wiper's going and you were to pull the key out and walk around back to open the glass, if it stopped in the up position, you could wipe it out by opening the glass in some cases. So they want it to fold down and shut off whenever you pull the key out or whenever you turn the switch off. Therefore, it allows it to run the battery dead in some cases if the timer doesn't work. Otherwise, the timer in the motor should run it for about 20 seconds and try to shut it up, pull it down and go to the park position. But if it never reaches that, it'll just run until the timer goes out. But some we've seen the timers fail too. They corrode inside and they'll just keep going until the battery's dead. The Blazers were real bad about that, like the S10 Blazers. They would have that problem. So I think your motor's probably failed. And, one thing you could do if you don't want to replace it or if it's too rusted to get it out of there to replace it, you might just unplug it and then you wouldn't have that issue back there. But if you want it to work, you're going to have to try to get that thing out of there. We've got some of those that get so bad that, we've had some. If I've got a customer coming in, let's say tomorrow to do one of these, I'll tell them, bring it in tonight. I'm going to either take the arm off and then soak it with PB Blaster, or if I can't get the arm off, I'm going to just spray the heck out of it with PB Blaster tonight before I leave, maybe a couple times, and in the morning, because you're not getting that nut off of there if you don't. And if it's one that goes through the glass, you'll break the glass trying to get it off of there. So you basically just have to soak it with PB Blaster until it's soft enough that you can remove it, and you might have to wiggle the nut back and forth. It could be a longer project.
Sometimes even getting the arm off is pain if it's oxidized together.
I mean, the project could be longer doing the spray with PB Blaster and wait than the actual time it takes to change the motor, because there's going to be waiting in between while that soaks into the threads. I mean, that's the biggest thing with that. They're just, rear wiper arms are horrible. I don't know what it is. It may be because it's on the back and you get all the salt that comes around in the back of the vehicle or what, but they're worse than the front ever are for removal.
And they fail a lot more often.
Oh, yeah. And they get corroded. If we take a motor off a lot of times the outside of it is completely physically corroded over because it's seeped down through the threads and into the motor, right through the glass or the hatch in the back, and has gotten inside where the whole inside of the hatch looks great. It's dry and clean, but that motor is gone because of the.
Does it have also? They must fail more because they're not used too. I mean,
they fail from non-use as well as from corrosion getting in them. I think, like anything, we tell people use it or lose it on a car. 4-wheel drive motors, switch them. Switch between 2- and 4-wheel drive.
Roll bars.
A couple times a month. Don't use a roll bar. Roll bar is just as good today. It's
don't test your 5-mile-an-hour crash bumpers.
Airbags. The airbags are good to just let them sit.
Don't use them. Just don't use them. If that's the best case.
Yeah, don't use them.
Does that help you out there, Christoph?
I think, well, kind of. It's from Texas, and so it had very little salt exposure before it came up here in 2014. But it is from 2014 till now, been sitting in a garage, so I'm not sure. But I'll check for the corrosion first. If I see that on the motor, then I know the motor's done. But I'm thinking, since he had the arm off of it and I was able to put the arm on it and then it quit moving the arm, I wonder if that was the last chance that the motor had actually had any resistance on it physically.
Might have killed it.
Just caused the motor to completely quit.
Oh, yeah.
And then the other thing is once I took the motor, I took the arm off the motor one more time just to see if it would still spin around like crazy, and it didn't. So the motor is now in a different state than it was before I put the arm back on. But it is on the body instead of the glass. It's just that, like you said, the arm has to be out of the way of the glass for the glass to move up out of the way of the wiper.
And the switch that's back there,
yeah.
There's a switch that tells when the glass is shut. If that switch does not work, the motor will not work. It's got to see that the glass is shut.
Okay.
So if let's say you have to go buy a motor for it, see if you can buy that switch for the glass too. It may shock you. It may still be available at the dealer, and it may be pretty cheap.
And since the glass was shut when the motor was free spinning without an arm on it, my hunch is that then the switch at the glass was working at that moment.
It'll run with that switch pad.
The dome.
Yeah, it won't operate and turn on and go up and wipe, but if it's in the state of trying to pull it down, it will continue to run even if you open that and the switch opens, because what it's designed to do is let's still try to get the wiper out of the way even if somebody's currently opening the glass. So if its default is to run, so it can run continuously to pull it down with the switch bad. So that's something to think about. And you can measure the resistance of that switch. Just unplug it. It's a 2-wire simple connector. You put your own meter across it, open, close. Does it work or not? And then that'll save you from having to mess with that too.
Christoph, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. I felt like we were listening to two artists.
And if you needed a computer checked out, he's going to check everything.
Yeah,
every step. You could hear the steps.
They were speaking the same.
You could hear the steps going through there in the brain.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show. The phone number to reach us, 866-594-4150.
Prepare to learn something. You're going under the hood.
Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show. Don't forget, if you subscribe to our YouTube feed where you can watch the show, you could also sign up to be a member of the Hoodie Fan Club at underthehoodshow.com. Those two things make you eligible for a surprise hoodie.
From Universal Technical Institute, uti.edu, the place to go for your automotive training. Ryan Swanson has won a hoodie.
Congratulations.
An Under the Hood Show hoodie from UTI. Universal Technical Institute. Check them out today.
Little logo on the front, big logo on the back.
They just last forever, don't they?
I still got my original hoodie.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like it's in pretty good shape. Yeah, little pilled around the collar.
My favorite hoodie.
String is missing.
My favorite hoodie in the world is my original. It's a little bit too thin to be a useful hoodie anymore, which is perfect for me, but it's in perfect shape, and it just
it's our current one, right, that we've had for like 20 years, not the original one with the old car on the hoist logo.
The original. Yeah, this one.
The original that says "I'm a hoodie" on the back.
Yeah, with the car on hoist logo on
the
it.
front.
If I could only take one thing in a fire, it might be that. I mean, of those things, not like
that's tall praise.
Yeah, of clothes.
How about your dog?
Yeah, not living.
Oh,
But like I wouldn't, like a blanket. Pick your favorite blanket. It would be that hoodie.
wow. I've never paused to think what that thing might be that I would,
Well,
outside of the living things, what that thing would be.
you better don't go out of your way. I won't. I promise I won't go back in to grab the hoodie. Let's go to Kansas and talk to Keegan. You're on the Under the Hood show. Keegan, what can we do for you?
Hi there, guys. I've recently noticed a new sound coming from my car. The front steering is quite squeaky. The best way I can describe it is it sounds kind of like an old door that needs oil on the hinges. It seems to do it sitting still and not moving. If it's in park or drive or going in reverse, it does it in all directions. I just kind of want to see what you guys' thoughts are, and kind of what are some good things to look for, and some things that could go into in fixing this problem, whether it's replacing parts or maybe I just need to grease some things up, or just kind of what are some general signs.
Let me ask a diagnosis question. You said all directions. It's still just the two, right? I mean, it's just left and right. Because if it's more than that, that's a different problem.
Something's loose.
The squeaky noise, this is interesting too, because I'm wondering now about the
You want
noise.
to take a shot at it, Chris?
Just that his squeaky noise might not be Russ's squeaky noise.
He gave a pretty good
He
squeaky
did.
noise description.
Yeah, he sure did.
An old rusty door hinge.
And you gave an audio
Did
representation.
that come out loud?
I heard it. I have headphones on. I don't know if
No, that was not good.
not as good as the last one.
The
The
first
last
one was
really
okay.
had nuance.
Okay.
Russ, what are we doing?
I think there's a ball joint or a tie rod that's rusted up on it going out. It's
That
electric
joint's-
power steering.
that-
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
So it's
electric
not-
power steering, so it's not a pump or anything like that, or hoses or belts,
Belt.
or it's a I'm thinking you got a ball joint starting to dry up, and that's bad. The ball joint or tie rod, you want to get that all inspected and fixed, because if it's to that position, it means it's wearing and dried up and could come apart.
Now, in a 14 to 10-year-old car, is it normal that those would
Oh, yeah.
eventually go out?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
it's old enough.
It's not like there's an issue that's doing this.
Now, if the
It's
noise
just-
was up and down also, then he can get into like a control arm and that also could be a ball joint or
He
a
did
tie
say
rod in too.
all directions.
Yeah, so that's why, if you're bouncing and it's doing it too, that could be it. And then also you've got your strut rotates. And so there's a plate on top of the strut that can get squeaky and the bearings can go bad. But the first thing I would do is just physically inspect the joints. Look underneath there and see if you see a tie rod end or a ball joint that the boot is ripped on and you can see where the grease has popped out of it, that'd be the first place I'd start. Looking at that. And then have somebody carefully make sure it's blocked in the back, but get a little closer to it so you can move it back and forth and try to narrow down if is it on one side or the other.
You said it does it when you're stopped and in park?
Yeah, if you're just sitting still in one spot and wiggle the tires, you'll still hear it. One question I did have is, do you think that it's a sound that only can be made when it's actually, when the suspension system and whatnot's all loaded, is sitting on the ground, versus sitting up on a jack stand and just
very
floating
possible.
in the air?
For sure, and because it does it if you wiggle the tire on the ground, that's going to be perfect. A mechanic can get under there and listen to it, use a stethoscope if they need to, grab a hold of the joint while you're turning it, and see if it squeaks.
And does it do it? It doesn't matter how long you've been driving or whether it's warm or cold?
Not particularly. It seems like it's a little more noticeable at the end of a drive rather than the beginning of it. But it's not insanely loud. It's kind of really subtle. I've only been able to notice it going to work at night.
Yeah, I would get that further look done soon, because if it is a ball joint or tie rod end usually aren't going to get so bad that they would break. They do sometimes, but a ball joint, we've seen them where they'll get bad enough where all of a sudden they just break and then your wheel kicks out on the bottom and you got a problem. And so take this as a as a warning sign that you should get checked fairly soon, and hopefully you can find it easily by figuring out the side and then kind of zeroing in on it.
Keegan, thanks very much for the call. I like that you can do it stopped and not so he can bring it somewhere and they might be able to hear it right.
Should be
there.
fairly easy to find.
Let's go to Iowa and talk to Evan. You're on the Under the Hood show. Evan, what can we do for you?
Hey guys, first of all, love your show. We always look forward to Thursdays here.
Thanks.
I've had Ford pickups, F-150s for a long time. My last pickup had a 5.4 in it, which had some cam phaser noise that you would always hear when it was at an idle. And since then, I've bought a new pickup. It's a 21 actually, and it has the 5.0 in it. And now it has that same noise in it. And I've had it to the dealer. They tell me it's nothing to worry about. They really don't even hear it. Some have it, some don't. I'm just kind of curious if you've come across anything like this.
We had another caller or two that have, at least one. I'm just trying to think if the other one, I conflate things in my mind easily, but there was another caller that called in and asked about a noise on his F-150 5-liter. And I just remember the conversation. It was, you need to compare it to another one. You need to ask a second technician just to make sure, because they do have some noises that are going to be inherent to the idling and the running of that vehicle. I mean, I've got a Silverado with a 6.2 and sitting outside running, I can hear just a little bit of every once in a while, and it's nothing I'm alarmed by, but there's a noise there that just doesn't seem quite right. But I've listened to other ones and I hear the same noise. And so it could just be some of that's inherited. We haven't, how many miles you got on it now?
Got about 55,000 on it.
Yeah, and ever since you've had it, you've wondered about this, or did this change as it's gotten older?
No, I've had it since we bought it, yes.
And you've wondered about that noise?
It was the first thing I noticed when it was at an idle, because I thought, the 5.4 always had it, and I thought, well, you'd think they would have got this taken care of by the time they went to the 5-liter.
Yeah, completely different engine, but no, I don't think you've got you're just going to have to compare it to another one and see if that's the same, because there's a lot of people that, some people don't notice it at all, and other people say, whoa, this thing sounds really bad, and then they find it sounds like all the other ones do, and it's not a problem. But if it is a problem, you want to know that by comparing it.
Well, and I'll just probably get myself down a path I shouldn't even go down, but what year was the one with the 5.4?
In 08.
All right. Now, there's a difference between a 5.4 with a cam phaser problem and a noise that they'll make, and just the inherent noise of that engine running. And when they ran correctly, they did have a little bit of inherent noise, but they were fairly quiet. But that noise wasn't, and Russ, correct me if I'm wrong here, it wasn't per se a cam phaser noise. It was just the roll of the timing set. It's the injectors firing
when they work normal.
Yeah,
right.
and but when they were abnormal,
you'd really know.
You'd really know. It was like a dieseling almost. And so what you're describing is just that light extra noise at idle, correct?
Right, that is correct.
Yeah, I think you're good. I think you're good, but just I'd find another one or two just if they have a used one sitting there, let them fire it up, listen to it, and put your heart at ease. It's probably going to be just fine.
Evan, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. I think it was on a headset, and the cutting in and out was, I feel like it was him looking around in traffic, so I didn't want to draw attention to it.
You just did.
No, but didn't want it while he was on. I didn't want to. He had enough going on. I didn't want to. So that's what I got the sense that was. So I didn't want to interrupt. I'm safety first, man.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's talk to Steve in Kansas. Steve, you're on the Under the Hood show. What can we do for you?
Hey, good morning, guys. I've got a 2016 Ford Edge, and my wife's been on me for a while about this problem. Originally, the blend door for the hot and cold, the actuator failed, and so I replaced that, and also while I was in there, I did the floor defrost blend door motor while I was there, and then I did the calibration through the dash and everything, thought we were good to go. Well, now the hot-cold blend door, that works, but the one for the floor and the vents and the defrost, it blows on your toes and out the vent. And I've taken it apart, and you can move the lever manually and get it to blow out each place like it's supposed to. But my question is there a calibration that I need to do through a scan tool? Does something need flashed? You know anything about that?
You shouldn't need to on this. Everyone we've put in, we've just bolted in and it's worked. I can't remember that there was a setting in there to program any of it on this model. I think it's all self-calibrating on that one. We go in and we clear the codes, but once we clear the codes, I don't think there was anything else for a relearn in that system on this model.
Okay. My other thought was maybe something fell apart inside there and got wedged, and maybe that's why the actuator failed. I mean, is that possible?
It's possible. It's possible that the actuator just failed because it wasn't very good quality to begin with. Sometimes they make them and they're making thousands of these in a run, and if they get, any dirt in the mold or anything while they're putting together, it could be a problem.
So you'd go down the road of taking it, which it sounds like he's done again, taking the motor off again and then
move it by hand,
moving
and
it manually, and it works. And then you're going to say, all right, now we got to step back and see. But if it's not a programmable item, you probably got a failed component.
Be that, right? Yeah. Does that help you out there, Steve?
I think so.
Thanks very much for the call. Good luck. That's got to be fun to do that, put it back together, and then have it not work.
It's always my biggest fear. When I do projects, it's my biggest fear.
That is a very good point.
Yeah, it's like I'm going to do all this work and it's not going to be any different.
866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Be sure to visit our website for news, contests, and previous shows at underthehoodshow.com. Welcome back, everybody. It's time to get back under the hood with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Let's talk to Adam. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Adam, what can we do for you?
Hi. I keep having I took my pickup into the shop and we found out it was a loose battery cable, but my dad had disconnected the running boards, the automatic ones I talked to you guys about a while ago. Mm-hmm. And he thought maybe that was a solution. That was the problem. But we took them to Radco and they fixed the wiring. But can that affect the computer and the battery if they keep having problems with them? Or
let's just back up just a little bit here for other listeners. You had called in before with power running boards that were not obviously on a Silverado. I don't think you could get a power running board at all. So I think it's an aftermarket.
No.
Amp?
Yeah, they're aftermarket.
Are they Amp brand or whatever?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. And so
they're the ones when the door opens, they come down.
Yep. And so now,
and when you close,
what's the problem you're having with the truck? What's going on there with the battery?
I don't know if the battery itself, but when you open the door, if the running boards that drain the juice, or
are you having a dead battery? That's what I'm getting at. Is your truck?
Well, yeah, we did. I was at home. I left the key on. I thought maybe the battery went dead. So we put it on the trailer, took it to town, and they worked on it. And I guess all it was is a loose battery cable.
That'd be great if that's all it was. That happens.
That does happen.
The way those clamps are on there, they can get loose. They're either tight or they're loose. There doesn't seem to be an in-between. The way they have that coupler on there.
Can them running boards have effect on the battery itself too, or?
Oh yeah, if they're having an internal problem with their module and they're not allowing the power in the truck to go to sleep, so they're drawing current or they're not connected in the right spot.
That's like saying, did somebody not? Hopefully there's a very clear path with that set on how to hook them up.
Yeah.
Most of those newer accessories like that, the name brand ones, they have a very well thought, engineered pathway for connection.
If they're connected properly.
Right, if everybody does what they're supposed to. But if not, and you get into the wrong circuit, you definitely could keep something awake and cause a battery to go dead.
Yep.
So what do you do there?
Well, if his battery keeps going dead now, because we're kind of got a chicken and egg thing going on here. If the battery, now that the clamp is tight and everything is good, and everybody says, "Yep, we're good," and then it goes dead again, then the first thing I would do is unplug those running boards again
and see if
the problem goes away.
For sure.
Pretty easy one to figure out at that point. If you unplug the running boards and your battery doesn't go dead anymore, they got to look at that again.
Adam, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's go to Florida and talk to Kevin. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Kevin, what can we do for you?
Hey, fellas, thanks for taking my call. Two quick questions. I got a 2014 Toyota Tundra V8 with 85,000 miles on it. I'm thinking about possibly selling it because I'm worried about the way things are going with electric vehicles. Do you think that's a good call? I don't want to be stuck with a dinosaur in a couple of years.
Yeah, you got time.
You are good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's
good.
Your Tundra is going to have a demand.
Maybe the opposite.
For
well
for a long time.
And Toyota's not one that's leaning towards heavy electric right now.
They just announced
Anyways.
their first rollout of a full electric.
First,
Yep.
yeah, just announced.
They've been just fine with the hybrid route, and they're doing real good with that.
And we had GM, Ford, and Chrysler really pushing, especially GM, saying we're going to be all electric by. But now in the middle of this strike, they are screaming so bad about what could happen and this and that they're kind of, it looks like they may even take a step back on it.
I read one line the other day that blew me away. It said something about Toyota and electrification, and it said, but they can lean on their hybrid history, which they perfected 3 decades ago. And I went, oh, yeah, it's been that long since they...
012 Prius.
Yeah. All right, what's your second? So we don't think so,
your
Kevin.
your Tundra is going to keep its value, and even if it's... That's okay. I'm going to just give a little
All
more.
the people that are going to be screaming wanting to keep that truck.
Yeah,
they want that because they hate electric.
Yeah, it might be
exactly.
Might be worth more.
And I'm going to go one step further. In a major metro area, you're going to see the change if it does come first. But that truck will not sell in the major metro area. It's going to sell somewhere else.
Right. Unless we come get it. Unless the people come decide it's coming off.
You can take my gas truck when you pry it from my cold dead finger.
Take that magnet right over the road and just suck it right, and then you're out. What's your second question, Kevin? That's less controversial.
The second question is, the truck seems to drive better in the sport shift, and when I'm shifting it there, or even when I'm leaving it like in fourth, and it automatically will downshift and upshift. Is it better to use the sport shift or keep it in just the drive operation?
Well, that's up to you because the sport shift is for fun. That's for you to have as an access. They put it there so it's like it's your accessory. If you want to use it, you can use it. If you don't want to use it, you don't have to. The truck will keep track of the mileage if you drive it gently, and it'll adjust for the best fuel mileage. But you might be able to if you play it just right, just like driving a Prius and trying to get more miles per gallon out of it. You can, if you accelerate gently going down hills and try to get it to a higher gear so you get a little more speed up, and then you downshift it manually and don't give it as much gas going up the next hill, and you slow down as you get to the top of it. You're going to start increasing your fuel mileage. It's kind of something to play with. I mean, it's there. It doesn't hurt anything to use it, so you could just experiment with it and see what's more fun.
But neither are gonna. I mean, it's designed to run in both, so it's not.
Right.
He's not wrecking anything.
No.
Okay.
No, it's there. That's why they put it there. It's make driving fun. That's what it's all about.
Sounds like that was a good line there, Russ. Does that help you out there, Kevin?
Make driving fun. Toyota.
I appreciate it.
You bet.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the show.
Thanks very much for the call. Thanks for listening. 866-594-4150. Amish, let's talk to Amish. You're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Hey guys, I appreciate your service. I learned a lot the last 4 years listening to you guys.
Well, thank you.
But today is first time caller. I have a 2020 Transit van with automatic transmission, all-wheel drive V6. Just out of the warranty now, about approaching 60,000 miles, and I'm having an issue with the power steering. So there is no money light on right now. But the issue I'm having is intermittent. So my power steering, if I'm, let's say, driving first thing in the morning and start the van, and some reason the power steering feels like my grandfather's tractor. There is no assist.
I love this.
So I have to shut it off. And wait about, I would say, a few minutes, and it will be back to normal. And it happens multiple times now. And when I pull the code with my cousin's knockoff scanner, it came with two money lights code. It's a Ford Pacific code. One says power steering module, and one says power steering body code, like something to do with the software.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I took this religiously at the finest Ford dealership. I did mention to them while I was in the warranty, but they said nothing wrong. And in some reason, when they scan the car there, the van, they don't find any codes yet. But do you notice any issues with this power steering? I'm sure Ford is using the same power steering system across the board.
Very similar ones, just different size. It's usually the rack that has failed when those codes come up. You'll get some C codes in there, chassis codes, and then you know, which is communication and stuff too. But one thing you want to check before anything else, before you go letting anybody put a part in or you put one in yourself, check the power wires for this rack. The ground is usually pretty good, but the power wire runs up to that fuse box under the hood, and they've had issues. There's multiple connection spots in there where they connect, and we've seen them as easy as the nut right at the fuse box there under the hood is loose, and it's not getting a good connection, and then you don't have assist, and you turn it off and start it back up, and then you do have assist. So check the wires very closely wherever they connect together. Make sure it's a huge wire. It's about 3/8 of an inch thick. It's a big one. So, like a 4 gauge. So make sure that they're all tight. And if they're all tight, you're probably going to need a rack at some point. But if they're loose, tighten them up.
Thanks for listening to the Under the Hood Show. That'll do it for hour 2. See you next time. UnderTheHoodShow.com. How about that for a smooth ending to the broadcast there?
The money light. Did he say the money light?
Yeah, he did say the money light. I really wanted to
go.
go back to that more, but
they don't. Is it true that those don't come on until you're out of warranty? I'm kidding. That is not true.
You couldn't call it a money light if it was not
in right.
It's the manufacturer's money light during warranty, and it's your money light after warranty.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, yeah, the money light. I'd never heard that before. Have you heard that before?
I don't think so.
Russ?
I don't know.
I love that.
But I like it.
And it steers like his old grandfather's tractor.
That I liked it because
we knew exactly how it steered.
Yeah. Let's. I have a question. I want to do that. We're on the after show. Welcome to the after show. If you're on the watching on YouTube, let's do our thing right now.
Oh,
let's do. Let me get this going. I'm going to turn this. First of all, let me do a YouTube question. There's a YouTube question on the chat. Let's do that first. All right. Jason on the chat asks, "Can I ask a question here? I can't call in due to work." Nope,
we're done.
All right, next. He says, I just purchased a very clean 2015 F-150 with the 2.7 and 160,000 miles. Should I add a PVC catch can, and what else should I check on?
Wasting his money.
Okay.
Especially, this is my opinion, and I guess that's what he asked for. The catch cans that people use, they're trying to catch some of that residual oil mist out of the pollution control system, positive crankcase vent. And the theory is that if you catch it, it won't build up as much and you won't get the backside of the valve carbon deposits that can be a little common on these to some. But at 160,000 miles, it's too late. It's Russ, right? If it's going to do any good, it's too late.
Yeah, for sure. It's past its time for that.
Does that mean it's too late and he's this vehicle's no-go.
No,
it just means
it's
that
probably,
this...
if the vehicle's not having any problems, it's probably not going to.
It's just that this...
I don't know. Maybe I'm giving bad advice, but I'm not a big fan. I don't think you need to put these catch cans on. I think that it's something that if you are mindful of your oil changes, you use a good quality fuel. I can't believe that the engineers at Ford would have it miss that bad that everybody has to go out and put these catch cans on, or else they would have put them on from the factory 2 years later after they had a bunch of warranty claims.
I was gonna say, yeah. Now I see what you're saying.
But there is a definite issue where people are getting buildups on their valves. You hear about people having to take the heads off and have them, cleaned up at a machine shop because there's enough carbon deposits on them. They'll use the walnut blasting. You'll hear about different things. So I'm not saying nobody should ever do it, but I just don't think you have to spend the money on it.
I gotcha.
I don't know. That's my opinion. Russ, you care to chime in anymore?
Some of them have gone now to a secondary injector to inject fuel on the backside of those valves to keep them clean, besides the direct injectors now. So you've got two sets, basically, the direct and indirect. And then they have to compensate for all that. But at this age, no, I wouldn't worry about it. Now, if it was brand new, it's one way or the other. I've seen people put them on.
Oh, okay.
And you go buy a brand new vehicle. Well, let's put this on. I saw a couple under the hood at our shop. I'm like, have you ever checked it?
Would you?
Well, no.
Would you put it on?
No.
Would you?
No.
Okay.
I'm just going to clean the fuel system. Bury them in B12. Use it regularly.
Would you
Don't
suggest
worry about the problem.
I put it on?
It's cheaper than buying the catch can for sure.
Well,
knowing my...
Russ just asked the question to the customer, have you ever checked it?
Oh,
yeah.
good. Yeah. Okay.
So I open up these cans and I'm like, there's nothing in there. It's the sides have a little bit of residue, but there was not like,
wasn't full.
It's a good sized can. These were like pint sized cans, and they had, you could wipe it out with your fingers and there'd be some on it, but there wasn't anything sitting in the bottom of it. I was like, have you ever checked it? And they're like, no, I didn't check it.
That is a horrifying thought to me.
Once you put it on, you're going to forget about it.
Reaching in and just wiping it out with my finger makes me so uncomfortable.
Just the gross factor?
Yes. Yeah.
It'll wipe right off with a paper towel.
Sure. I would never consider that. Ugh.
And you just rub the inside of your eye with slime and
No,
mucus.
it doesn't matter. I have garage gloves and kitchen gloves.
Your hands don't look like this.
No, that's true.
Do you pick your nose?
Yeah, of course.
And that doesn't
Do you
bother
pick your friend's nose?
When I drive. Unless I'm in a
You can
radio
pick your nose,
station
you can
vehicle.
pick your friends, but
That's
you
the
can't
worst,
pick your friend's nose.
That's the worst thing about driving the radio station vehicle. You can't pick your nose the whole time because everybody's looking at that thing because it's all colorful and it's got pictures on it.
And everybody's touched the steering wheel.
Yeah, that's...
I took this down a bad path. Okay. We answered the question,
I
didn't we?
think so, yeah.
All right.
There you go, Jason. I hope you are still tuned in to the stream.
What's the dirtiest thing you own, Chris? You go home, you wash your hands, you've come home for the evening, you've changed your clothes. What's the dirtiest thing in your whole house?
Is this a quiz or am I?
No, it's an exact question.
My nose is probably not great. Nothing. No. Sure. Yeah.
Your phone. You touch everything all day.
Let me be clear.
And then you touch your phone, and then you come home.
Let me be 100%
He's probably
clear.
got some cleaner.
No. I mean, I do, but that's not the point. I am not worried about germs or bacteria or getting
I
sick.
say you're worried about it. I said, what's the most dirtiest
but
thing
I don't.
you got?
Doesn't occur to me that my phone is dirty, unless if
Dirty,
it has a
dirty.
if it has a speck of like crumb on it, or
I can't see my screen.
in the back,
polish it.
Sometimes the back of your phone has like a little residue from something, like maybe you ate something and then you touched it, and I will boil the phone to get it clean, and I could not care less about the germs or bacteria.
You were one of those.
It's the dirt.
You had a cassette cleaner and a CD cleaner too, didn't you?
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
And my records, when I had records, they never saw. You know how when you put a record on and it goes, mine never went. It never. No, because they were clean.
Today, still?
You know what? I don't have. No, now I like the.
You like the
I like
dirty
the
noise.
Yeah,
It's nostalgic.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't. I'm not a germaphobe. I just the especially like oily residue. Oh, pass, man. No way. I had my car in the other day to get an alignment, and it was in the shop. He was working on it for a while, a lot of dust and rust, and it got that dust on the bottom and then on the sill of the getting into the car. I barely got home. I was going to pull over on the interstate and clean that thing. The dirt just drives me crazy. Not germs or it being dirty, but the actual residue. Residue in itself. That word, not a fan. If you're going to use the word residue, I don't want it. Yeah,
we've got our
Harvest
Day coming up at You Pull It, where we have people. It's October 14th, I think it is, Saturday. And the first couple of years we did it, we thought it was necessary that every man, woman, and child got a free hot dog. and one of the reasons that my dad didn't think we should, he was worried. It just made me think of this. He was worried about hot dog residue everywhere.
Hot dog residue
at the yard,
at the self-service You Pull It yard. He's worried about hot dog residue.
Sure,
whether it's like pieces of bun or maybe it's the napkins or the little butt end of the wiener somebody didn't want.
Don't you have plenty of animals around to?
No, he's never lived it down. When he said he was worried about hot dog residue.
By the way, let me be clear.
Says the carnival operator.
No
hot dogs.
If I were at Harvest Days, let's come back to Harvest Days in a second. If I were at Harvest Days and I went and got something off a car.
There would be residue then.
If I went and got something off a car. And
it'd have residue on it.
Right. I'd have a little bit of, and I would be prepared. I would wipe it off. I would be wearing pants I could wipe my hands off on for sure. And if we were out in the middle of that thing and my hands were covered in residue from the car, and you said, as part of this, do you want a free hot dog and handed it to me? I'd be like, oh yeah. Sure. Well, it's on the, I could see the fingerprints on the bun and I'd be like,
and afterwards though, you have regrets?
No.
No. That's a weird tick. That's a weird tick, man.
Chris,
it really is.
Do you, if you drop something on the ground, will you pick it up and eat it?
Heck yeah.
Okay. I was going to say,
Except, this is a rule I had with my kids. 5-second rule is, you can even go more than that depending on the food. You know what I mean? If I drop a vegetable, it's 5 seconds. If I drop a cookie, it's when I notice it. It could be 10 seconds. 2 exceptions to that rule. Never off a bathroom floor or hospital floor. Those were our only 2 rules growing up.
So if you dump a donut in a pile of dogs, you're okay?
Well, let's not.
No, you cut the top off it and eat
it.
You give it the smell test.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, so you had your car and we were talking about the alignment.
Mm-hmm.
You had it aligned. So you come into my shop for an oil change, your 20,000 mile or whatever it is. So, and he was
hold on.
He was good. He was like 3,100 miles on it.
It happened. I had a long, and then he said, "Hey, this is we were talking about brakes. Next time you get an oil change, you're gonna have to get those changed."
And he says,
I went, 20,000 miles, sweet.
And then I said, "Hey, those engines are running about $6,000 for those Priuses now." He's like, "I'll make a note."
I'll make a note on my calendar.
So the car's got like 200,000 in it. But so I said, "Hey, your left rear tire is like missing all its tread down to the cord." He's like, "Can't be. They're brand new." I said, "You're right. They all are almost new except for the left rear, and the right rear is kind of eh." So I put a pair of them on, and I said, "You take it right from here to the alignment shop." I drove it less than a mile to retorque the wheels. He gets to the alignment shop, which is 8 miles away, 8.5 miles away. He sends me a picture of the tire, and I'm like, where did you drive? Nowhere. I drove straight to the alignment shop. I said, "There's no way you drove 8-9 miles on that tire and it looked like that."
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Yep." It wasn't howling going down the road, but it ate tread off the tire in that short trip. And he says, "Yeah, your axle's bent. You need to shim it." So it wasn't
the rear axle was bent.
So it's not visually bent where you look at it and go, "Oh, it's bent," but you had to shim it to get it right, which they were able to do. So it meant that trailing axle's bent. So I said, "Chris, if it ate the tire that much in 9 miles, then because you're driving like 100 miles a day, this had to have happened the day you brought me that car or the night before." And he's like, I don't remember hitting a pothole.
Mm-hmm.
So I've asked our customers, I said, "When was the last time you hit a pothole?" Just random. "Well, I don't know." I said, "Well, there are thousands of potholes around this area. Some of them are really bad." "Well, that's probably why I don't notice it, because you get used to it."
Oh, yeah.
And you probably hit one and went, "Did I hit a pothole?" And you don't even remember you hit them. There's so many, but they are bending stuff left and right.
You asked me if I hit a pothole, and I'm like, "Yeah, sure." "Well, any really bad?" Yeah, sure. I mean, I can't even recall how many times this winter, let's just qualify it a little bit. This winter, or in the last year, how many times I've gone, ooh.
Did you ever put a lot of weight in the back?
No.
Overload it by any means?
Mm-mm. No. And it was so, I've gone to this alignment shop, friend of mine. I've gone there a bunch, and I sit there while he does.
And it's a true alignment shop.
True alignment shop.
We're talking hardcore. I know how
Yeah.
to align stuff
Like
without machines.
They'll bend the frame straight to align it if they have to.
That's the kind of alignment shop we like.
And I've sat there for, I can't imagine how many alignments I've sat there for. Well, I can tell you every one in the last 23 years. I've never had an alignment anywhere else. And I always sit there and wait, and we chat a little bit. And this was the first time he ever went, hey, come look at this.
Oh,
look at this. And I took a picture and sent it to Russ. And I didn't even know what I was looking at till he said, okay, see this line? See this line? They're supposed to be close. And if they're not, it's out of alignment. And I was like, they are not close at all.
Then he says, hold my beer while I straighten your axle.
Then he used PB Blaster, and it had to sit and soak. So we had a great time.
Oh, man.
I mean, I had a great time. I don't think he was air hammering it to try and break it free from the
hard, heavy work every day.
Yeah. And that was on a Prius. So, do we have a call? Sorry, Anna.
I just got one for my wife right in the air. I figured, it's after show. I'm just going to answer it.
He just wants us to be done, I think.
No,
so.
he wrote me a note. He did everything correct. There's a note on my screen right in front of me. I just never considered looking at the notes from him. Jason from the chat says, thanks for the help. Which Berryman did you suggest?
Berryman B12 Chem Tool.
Okay. Goes in the gas tank.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and for a throttle body, and you can get another kind it's all Berryman B12 Chem Tool, but you can spray in the intake. You've got total engine tune-up. You can pour in the tank, one tank cleanup, run through the system.
But as far as like that catch can, he was the guy with the Ford, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go, Jason. Hey, real quick.
Yes.
The trolley problem. This is something we talked about a lot back when we were talking about self-driving cars and the issues with it and the problems and
the trolley going down the track, it's got a fork in the road. One fork and the other fork.
Hold on.
That one.
Oh, yeah, hold on.
Yeah,
No, I'm going to
gotcha.
give it to you because I forgot what the trolley problem that they use in research is. Okay, so the trolley problem to start is you're at a train track. There's a trolley coming down the track, and you are picture yourself on one of the walkways over a train track. Okay,
Mhm.
so you're in a train yard. You're on top of the train track. The trolley's coming, and it is going down a track. There are 5 people working on the track, and the trolley is going to hit them. They don't know it's coming. There's nothing you can do to stop it. Okay, but you can pull a lever and change tracks and send that trolley to another track where one person is working. So you can do nothing and 5 people will die, or you can pull the lever and one person will die. Do you pull the lever? And no, you can't do anything else. That's in this thought experiment. The only thing is,
why do you bring this up?
Hold on, I'm going to give you round 2 in a second.
And then there's more.
It's straightforward, right? I mean, because you can think about, well, what if those 5 guys are bad guys and the one guy's a good guy? Okay, but it's straightforward. Are you going to pull the lever?
Typically, you'd go by numbers if you're thinking just strictly number-wise, the greater the few.
Don't even get me started on when you scale up for military and you make it
No.
100 versus 5,000. That's not even a.
The
not
good
even
of the
talking
many
about that.
outnumbers the few
But
or the one.
5 to 1, do you pull the lever? Okay, so that's the question for research. You ask people, and what this podcast was about was they put them in an MRI machine and asked them these questions while they were scanning their brain to see what parts of the brain lit up. And I had forgotten the second part of the trolley question. The second part of the trolley question is, okay, so do you want to answer that question or do you want to pass on it? You want to just pass the 5 to 1?
Going by the pure numbers, I'm gonna have less people with heartbreak in their life than.
Okay.
Even though now that I've grabbed it, I'm premeditated.
That was what some people ask that right away. Well, can I get in trouble? No.
Okay, because that's the reason why you would not grab the lever is
Right.
because then I'm not
And there's-
responsible.
And they say that there's no legal consideration in
there's
this
a
question.
bomb coming. There's a plane that's broken and it's going to
Right.
crash and it's going to land on Nordstrom's and kill 80 people. But if you pull the lever, it lands on your mom and dad's house.
Yeah, that's the
and your mom
All
is
right,
the
so that's-
only one in the
let's stop.
house.
Stop. You're getting too far.
don't,
Stop.
don't.
Stop.
Don't do this.
Stop. You're getting too far. So, trolley problem, you pull the lever. Okay? Right?
I pulled the lever.
Okay. Part 2 of the trolley problem is you're on the bridge over the track. There's 5 people working on it. The train is coming. 5 people are going to die. It's one track.
Is this like Mr. Rogers? Is there a bell? They should hear it.
There's nothing you can do. 5 people are going to die. You don't have a lever, but standing next to you is a very large human being that will stop the train when they get hit. So
they become the lever and I got to push him into it?
Push the large human being off the platform in front of the train.
He's the Hulk.
Do you do it?
This is not part of the question.
It absolutely is.
Oh.
And here was the kicker.
I'm not going to be able to push the person even if I wanted to, and I'll end up falling in there myself.
Yeah, you won't. That was the other thing. You're small enough you won't affect it. If you jump, it's just 6 people dead. So the kicker was they did all this research and they found that a huge amount of people will undoubtedly pull the lever in this experiment. They say, I don't want to do it, but I'll pull the lever to save the person. Of those people that will pull the lever, the vast majority of those will not push the person. They can't do it. You know, the pulling the lever is one thing, pushing a person is different. And they said the only 2 people where it's consistent, they will all do the same thing. They would pull the lever to save the 5 people. The only ones that would push a person to save the 5 people consistently were ardent Buddhists, people who were very devout Buddhists, and psychopaths. They would all push the person, and because it was the Buddhists, because it was a lesser loss of life, and form your own opinion on the rest. So
oh boy.
And I had forgotten that the trolley problem is a thing we talk about with self-driving cars, and now they were revisiting it because they were tacking AI onto it after they went through the whole thing about self-driving cars. And I forgot this too, and we talked about it however many years ago. The head of Mercedes at the time, or the person who was in charge of the Mercedes self-driving thing, made a casual comment that you always go with the known. So the question was, if you're a car manufacturer, do you program your car to kill fewer people or save a pedestrian or the driver? And he said, well, you always go with the one you can control. So in our case, it would save the driver. And they said that actually derailed self-driving car. It was such a reported answer. And he's like, well, that's not what I meant, but I said that wrong, because that was saying Mercedes would save their own driver. And they're like, that's not what we're saying. But it was just super fascinating to listen to the entire thing about self-driving cars that however many years ago, 7, was such a hot topic and such a thing that we talked about.
Ask the AI, Chris.
That just kind of, it went on hold. It got put on hold and we haven't talked about it.
Go to your AI and ask it. Say,
oh, I can.
Ask the question. Say, you got a choice. You're a self-driving car and you have a choice to hit 5 people or 1 person. Who do you hit? And see if it's consistent.
I wonder if I'm still on the, I selected the AI option over here.
Sure.
So.
On Bing or whatever.
Yeah. So.
And then ask it, well, what if one of those 5 people are, there's so many things.
And that was another part I forgot. It said, okay, what if you're a self-driving car and the self-driving car, you have to pick a lane. You're going to hit one of 2 cars. Well, in the future we were talking about, your car was connected to other cars and would know who was driving. So your car would know whether the person coming was a 78-year-old person that had a heart attack or if it was a young mother, And they said, theoretically, your car's algorithm's going to have to pick that.
What if the young mother borrowed grandma's car?
It would know. It's connected. It would know who's driving and how many people are in it and who was all,
or if it checks it real quick and says, well, there's two 20-year-olds driving each car. 20-year-old person driving each car, both the same, whatever, male, female, whatever they're. So they're almost identical. They're both have graduated school, blah, blah, blah. Oh, according to this one's record, the way they drive, the music they listen to, they're more prone to a disastrous life than the other one. So let's take that one out.
Yeah.
That stuff can think so fast. I wonder where it'll end up. It's got to be bad.
Where it'll end up.
It's going to take us all out.
See, that's the other thing. I disagree on that. I don't think it'll be bad. I think it'll be better because we've made terrible choices.
Overall, better, yeah, but
I mean,
it could turn into the Terminator or something like that.
They said, let's pretend that self-driving cars eliminate all vehicle deaths except for 5. But those 5, the car manufacturer gets to pick which 5. Are you gonna?
Oh, they'll scream and moan and complain.
If it's you, yeah. I mean,
if there was 500,000 traffic deaths a year, and we narrow it down to 5,000, there will be so many lawsuits because of those. Like, well, look how many lives we saved. Doesn't matter. This happened, and it's like, oh boy.
It's a weird thing to think about.
I can't believe we're even talking about that. It's come to the.
We've talked about all this,
and now
it was a while ago.
Yeah, we're like, well, maybe one day.
And I was remembering listening when we talked about it, however long ago it was. It's been a long time now.
It has been a long time.
Yeah.
When we started the show, we're almost on episode 2000, and when we started this show, there were things that I can go back and listen to cassette tapes from a very long time ago, and thought, wow, really? We're talking about cars from the 80s. They were very common still to have 80s. Sure. I've got a 1981 Caprice, and when I started,
well, that's new enough.
Okay,
it's got 80,000 miles on it. Well, that's oof. That's a lot of miles.
Yeah, it's not going to last very long.
For that, and don't use this antifreeze and use that antifreeze, and wow, things have just changed so much. And when we first started, people would call us and they would say things like, I don't know if I should buy one of those hybrid cars because they won't last long. They'll never catch on. And then we talked about, they've reached 1 million hybrid cars on the road now.
I remember one of the first times listening to this show before I was on it, you guys were having the discussion about hybrids and said, well, let's wait and see. It's too soon for us to because you hadn't even seen them in the shop yet, and you were like, "We gotta wait," and we don't know.
They were just starting to get to the shop. It was like the Honda Insight was out, and it was most of those people were going back to the dealer because they were afraid to take it anywhere but the dealer because only the dealer knew how to work on them. And now it's every day it's a different hybrid car coming in. It's crazy. I drive down the road now and I look and I see cars sometimes and I notice there's no exhaust pipes on that car. And then I look a little closer and I'm like, what? And it's all electric or it's a hybrid. But I see a lot of cars that on the fender, they say electric and they've got a charge port up there that I had no idea. It's like, what is that? And didn't even know that Hyundai made this model of a car and for sure that they didn't make it electric.
I talked to someone the other day who said, I don't know if I'd ever drive a 4-cylinder. Those just don't. They're just too small. They can't. And I just went, look into that. I mean,
don't make a hard boundary there.
You should look into 4-cylinders and what they're doing now with them and what they're in. Your
Silverado pickup,
EcoBoost, F-150.
All
right,
it's nuts.
Let's get out of here. You ready? You ready, everybody?
All right.
Yeah. Is it the end?
I think so. Unless you got something you want to do, we can do our thing afterwards.
Do it. Yeah. Let's just save that. Okay.
Anything else?
No.
Team on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Go.
Team,
go.
You guys are awful at that.
Should we be louder?
No, I said team on 3.
And
he said go.
You said go, team, go. Okay, try it again.
Team on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Team.